First contact with tradition. Dr. Zextel stood before the holographic display, her four eyes blinking in asynchronous confusion as she reviewed the data for the thousandth time. As the Galactic Federation's leading xenoanthropologist, she had studied hundreds of species, but humans continued to perplex her in ways she never expected. Today's subject of fascination: their peculiar habit of naming their spacecraft. Computer, display historical efficiency ratings for human vessel Hess Normandy versus standard Federation vessel SFV 7249. She commanded, her voice carrying the crisp accent of the Central Worlds Academy. The resulting graphs told a story that defied conventional science. The human vessel, despite being technically inferior in almost every measurable way, consistently outperformed its Federation counterparts in both routine operations and crisis scenarios. What made even less sense was that this pattern repeated across virtually every named human vessel in their fleet. Most fascinating, she muttered, her secondary hands adjusting the recording devices that perpetually floated around her workspace. The humans appear to be achieving superior results through what they call emotional investment in their vessels. The concept seemed absurd to most of her colleagues. In standard Federation protocol, ships were assigned numerical designations based on their construction date, type, and intended function. It was efficient, logical, and completely devoid of the messy sentimentality that humans insisted on bringing to everything they touched. Yet here she was, staring at incontrovertible evidence that this messy sentimentality was producing measurable advantages. A gentle chime announced the arrival of her human research partner, Captain Sarah Chen. The human woman entered with that curious upward curve of the lips that they called a smile, carrying what appeared to be another one of their coffee stimulant beverages. Still trying to crack the mystery of our naming conventions? Sarah asked, setting down a second cup of coffee near Zextel's workstation. Over the past standard year, the xenoanthropologist had developed quite an appreciation for the bitter earth beverage. Indeed, Zextel responded, accepting the drink with one of her secondary hands. I must admit, Captain, the more I study this phenomenon, the more it challenges our fundamental understanding of spacecraft operations. Your people name these vessels as if they were. She paused, searching for the right word. Family members. Sarah's smile widened. That's because, in a way, they are. You know, there's an old saying among human spacers: a ship's name is her soul, and her crew is her heart. Zextel's recording devices whirred to life at this statement. Fascinating. You attribute metaphysical properties to these designations. It's more than that, Sarah explained, moving to the holographic display. When we name a ship, we're not just labeling it. We're acknowledging its unique character, its potential destiny. Take the Normandy you were just studying. She's named after a beach where humans fought one of their most significant battles for freedom. That name carries weight, history, expectation. Every crew member who serves aboard her knows they're part of that legacy. But surely such emotional attachments would compromise operational efficiency. Zextel countered, though her tone carried more curiosity than conviction. Sarah shook her head. Actually, it's the opposite. When you serve on a named vessel, you're not just operating machinery. You're becoming part of a story, a tradition. It makes crew members push harder, think faster, care more deeply about their duties. They're not just maintaining systems, they're protecting their home, their family. As if to punctuate this point, the holographic display shifted to show the survival rates of crews during critical situations. The difference was stark. Named human vessels had a 47% higher crew survival rate in catastrophic failures compared to numerically designated ships. The numbers are compelling, Zextel admitted, her primary eyes fixed on the data while her secondary pair studied Sarah's expression. But there's something I still don't understand. How do you choose these names? What makes one designation more suitable than another? Sarah's expression grew thoughtful. That's where the real magic happens. Sometimes it's about honoring history, like with the Normandy. Other times, it's about aspiration. Names like Pioneer or Discovery. And sometimes she smiled. It's about hope. Every name tells a story about what we believe that ship can become. Zextal felt something shift in her understanding. For the first time, she began to see these names not as inefficient human sentimentality, but as something more profound, a form of programming through belief and expectation. "Captain," she said slowly, "I believe I need to completely revise my research parameters. We've been studying this phenomenon from entirely the wrong perspective. It's not about the names themselves. It's about the way they shape reality through collective belief and individual dedication." Sarah nodded, pleased. "Now you're getting it. A ship without a name is just a collection of parts. But a named ship, that's a promise waiting to be fulfilled." As Zextal began reconfiguring her research protocols, she couldn't help but wonder if her own people's devotion to pure logic had caused them to miss something fundamental about the nature of space travel. Perhaps there was more to these human traditions than mere sentiment after all. The legacy of names. The presentation chamber of the Galactic Science Council fell silent as Dr. Zextal's latest findings appeared on the massive holographic display. The assembled scientists, representing 17 different spacefaring species, leaned forward in their gravity-adjusted seats, their attention fixed on the data streams flowing through the air. "As you can see," Zextal continued, her four arms gesturing at different points in the display, "the performance disparity cannot be explained by technological differences alone. The human vessel HSS Endeavour, despite being outmatched in every technical specification, consistently achieves a 23% higher success rate in deep space operations compared to our most advanced ships." A Mersian scientist, his crystalline form refracting the holographic light, raised an appendage. Could this not simply be attributed to human biological advantages? Their documented adaptability and stress response systems are quite remarkable. "A reasonable hypothesis," Zextal acknowledged, "but our data shows otherwise." She brought up a new set of charts. When the same human crews are assigned to ships with standard numerical designations, their performance aligns with expected parameters. The enhancement effect appears only in named vessels. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Captain Sarah Chen, standing quietly at the back of the chamber, couldn't help but smile. She'd seen this reaction before, the moment when highly logical beings encountered something that challenged their fundamental understanding of reality. "Furthermore," Zextal continued, "we've documented an unusual phenomenon we're calling the legacy effect. Ships that inherit names from distinguished predecessors show an even higher performance boost, particularly in situations similar to those faced by their namesakes." A holographic display shifted to show the HSS Challenger I, a deep space rescue vessel. The ship had recently performed what many considered an impossible rescue, saving a Tellarite colony ship from the heart of a quantum storm. The feat eerily mirrored a rescue performed by the original SS Challenger centuries earlier. The crew reported feeling what they described as the weight of history during the operation, Zextal explained. Their psychological profiles show elevated levels of determination and resource efficiency that exceed standard human baseline measurements. A Vulcan representative, their feathers bristling with skepticism, spoke up. "Are we to believe that merely naming a ship can alter its operational parameters? This borders on mysticism, not science." "I understand your skepticism." Sarah stepped forward, addressing the council for the first time. "But consider this, when we name a ship, we're not just labeling it. We're connecting it to a story, a tradition, a set of expectations. Every crew member who serves aboard knows they're part of something larger than themselves." She gestured to a new display showing brain scan data. Dr. Zextal's research has shown that human crews on named ships show increased neural synchronization, especially in crisis situations. They think faster, work more cohesively, and show higher levels of intuitive problem-solving. But how? The Mersian scientist's crystalline form pulsed with curiosity. "What is the mechanism?" "We believe it's a combination of factors," Zextal explained. "Psychological programming through historical association, enhanced crew bonding through shared cultural context, and what humans call living up to the name. The effect appears to be self-reinforcing. Success breeds expectation, which in turn breeds more success. Sarah nodded. Think of it like this. When you serve on a ship named Intrepid or Dauntless, you're not just accepting a posting. You're accepting a challenge to embody those qualities. It changes how you think, how you act, how you respond to crisis. The chamber fell silent again as the implications sank in. If something as simple as naming conventions could have such profound effects on spacecraft performance, what other aspects of human irrationality might they have dismissed too quickly? There's more, Zextal added, her tone growing excited. We've begun documenting cases where the effect appears to extend beyond the human crews. Alien personnel serving on named human vessels shows similar performance enhancements, albeit to a lesser degree. It seems the power of these names can transcend species boundaries. The data showed a Meridian engineer serving aboard the HSS Phoenix who had achieved breakthroughs in engine efficiency that their peers had considered impossible. When interviewed, they reported feeling inspired by the ship's spirit of renewal and rebirth. We're only beginning to understand the full implications, Zextal concluded. But one thing is clear. The human practice of naming ships is far more than a cultural curiosity. It represents a form of psychological engineering that we've never considered possible. As the council chamber erupted in discussion, Sarah caught Zextal's eye and nodded slightly. They both knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the most powerful technologies weren't built from metal and energy, but from stories and belief. When names become legend. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the HSS Prometheus, her hands gripping the command rail as she watched the impossible unfold on the main view screen. The quantum storm, the largest ever recorded, churned before them, its violet-black tendrils reaching across space like the fingers of some cosmic horror. Somewhere in that maelstrom was the Galactic Science Council's research fleet, including Dr. Zextal's ship. Status report, Maya commanded, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Her first officer, Commander David Chen, brother to the now famous Captain Sarah Chen, consulted his holographic displays. The storm's getting worse, Captain. Energy readings are off the charts. The Federation vessels are reporting their shields won't hold much longer. Maya nodded grimly. The research fleet had been studying the formation of a new quantum anomaly when the storm hit. A storm that shouldn't have been possible according to every known model of space-time physics. Now, 12 ships carrying some of the galaxy's brightest minds were trapped in a phenomenon that threatened to tear them apart atom by atom. What are our options? The ship's AI, integrated into every system, but maintaining a respectful silence until needed, spoke up. Standard rescue protocols are insufficient given current conditions. Probability of successful intervention using established methods, 2.3%. Maya felt the weight of every eye on the bridge. The Prometheus was the only ship in range with any hope of attempting a rescue. She was also the newest and most advanced vessel in the human fleet, named after the mythological figure who dared to steal fire from the gods to help humanity. "Show me the storm's pattern analysis," she ordered. The main screen shifted, displaying complex mathematical models of the quantum disturbance. To most observers, it would have appeared chaotic, random. But Maya saw something else. A rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. "There's a pattern here," she muttered, more to herself than her crew. "Prometheus, run a comparison with ancient Earth-ocean wave patterns." The AI complied instantly, and new data streams appeared. The correlation was startling. The quantum storm was behaving like a complex system of ocean currents and waves, operating on a cosmic scale. Maya straightened, a plan forming in her mind. "We're going to surf it." Commander Chen blinked. "Captain, the storm isn't random. It's cyclic. If we time it right, we can ride the quantum currents like a wave, using the storm's own energy to carry us through." She turned to her crew, her eyes bright with determination. It's what Prometheus would do. Steal the power of chaos itself to save lives. The bridge crew exchanged glances. What their captain was proposing was either brilliant or suicidal, possibly both. But there was something in her voice, in the way she invoked their ship's namesake, that made them believe. Engineering, Maya called. I need everything you can give to the quantum field generators. We're going to create a surfing board out of our shield bubble. The chief engineer, a Meridian named Zixera, who had specifically requested assignment to a human vessel, responded with enthusiasm. Already on it, Captain. Prometheus's systems are singing. She knows what you're planning. Maya allowed herself a small smile. Over the past year, she'd noticed how the ship seemed to anticipate their needs, responding more like a living partner than a machine. The name Prometheus wasn't just a designation, it was a promise, a destiny. All hands, this is the captain speaking. Maya's voice rang through every compartment of the ship. What we're about to attempt has never been done before. But that's what Prometheus does. We bring the impossible within reach. Hold fast to your stations and trust in your ship. The next 20 minutes were a symphony of controlled chaos. The Prometheus dove into the storm, her shield bubble morphing and flexing as they rode the quantum currents. Maya called out course corrections by instinct as much as calculation, feeling the ship respond to her commands like an extension of her own body. Warning alerts blared as their shield strength fluctuated wildly, but Maya kept them steady. Just a little more, she whispered, her eyes fixed on the swirling chaos ahead. Come on, Prometheus. Show them why we dare to steal fire from the gods. And then, impossibly, they were through. The Prometheus emerged from the storm's heart with the research fleet in tow, their ships protected within the extended shield bubble. The bridge crew erupted in cheers as they cleared the storm's edge, their impossible rescue complete. Hours later, as the adrenaline faded and the rescue became the subject of intense scientific scrutiny, Dr. Zextal approached Maya in the Prometheus's observation lounge. You did something remarkable today, Captain, the xenanthropologist said, her 4 eyes blinking in sequence. But I must ask, how did you know it would work? Maya gazed out at the stars, considering her answer carefully. I didn't know. Not for certain. But Prometheus, both the myth and the ship, is about daring to reach beyond what seems possible. When I took command, I wasn't just accepting responsibility for a vessel. I was accepting the challenge of living up to that legacy. Zextal's recording devices whirred softly. You speak of the ship as if she's alive. Maya smiled. In a way, she is. Not like you or me, but alive all the same. Every ship with a name has a spirit, a purpose. Today, Prometheus lived up to hers. As Zextal left to document this latest evidence of the power of named ships, Maya remained at the window, her hand resting gently on the bulkhead. Beneath her palm, she could have sworn she felt a warm pulse, like a heartbeat, as if the ship was acknowledging their shared triumph. The ripple effect. The great hall of the Meridian Fleet Command buzzed with anticipation. Crystal-formed beings shifted in their gravity couches, their crystalline structures refracting light in patterns that reflected their emotional states. Today marked an unprecedented event in Meridian history. The naming ceremony of their first personalized starship. High Admiral Zardix, their fractals gleaming with formal authority, approached the ceremonial platform where the ship's designation would be announced. Beside them stood Captain Maya Rodriguez and Dr. Zextal, invited as representatives of humanity and the Galactic Science Council, respectively. After careful study of human naming traditions, Zardix's voice resonated through the chamber. And in light of recent events, we have decided to name our new flagship vessel. They paused, their crystal structure pulsing with what humans might recognize as pride. She shall be called Luminaris. The assembled Meridians vibrated in harmony, their equivalent of applause. The name was perfect for their species, capturing both their crystalline nature and their dedication to enlightenment through science. Dr. Zextal's recording devices whirred excitedly as she documented this historic moment. In the 3 months since the Prometheus incident, interest in human naming traditions had exploded across the galaxy. but the Meridians were the first to formally adopt the practice. The name honors our nature while embracing the promise of discovery, Zarix continued. Like our human allies, we believe this ship will become more than the sum of its components. It will be a beacon of knowledge, a light in the darkness. Maya stepped forward at Zarix's gesture. On behalf of humanity, we're honored to witness this ceremony. Every named ship adds a new chapter to the story of space exploration. But not every species embraced the change with such enthusiasm. In a nearby chamber, representatives from the Vulcan Confederation watched with barely concealed skepticism, their avian features twisted in what might have been disapproval. Mysticism, first speaker Krultar muttered. They're abandoning centuries of logical progression for human sentimentality. Yet the results are undeniable, his aide countered softly. The performance metrics from named human vessels continue to exceed all predicted parameters. And now the Meridians. The discussion was interrupted by an urgent communication. A spatial anomaly had been detected near the Vulcan border, threatening several colony worlds. The Luminaris, being the closest vessel, was dispatched to investigate. What followed would become legend in both Meridian and human space. The Luminaris, guided by its Meridian crew who had embraced their ship's new identity, discovered that the anomaly was actually a previously unknown form of space-time distortion. Their unique approach to the problem, combining Meridian analytical precision with the bold improvisation they'd learned from studying human-named ships, led to a breakthrough in understanding cosmic phenomena. Fascinating, Dr. Zextel noted in her research logs. The crew reports feeling a distinctive resonance with their ship, similar to but distinct from what humans describe. They're developing their own unique relationship with the naming tradition. The success of the Luminaris sparked a wave of change across the galaxy. The Tellarites named their medical ships after ancient healers. The Arcturians chose names that sang in harmonic frequencies. Even the initially reluctant Vulcan began to experiment with names based on mathematical concepts. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Some species struggled with the concept, trying to force a connection rather than letting it develop naturally. The Zentari, for instance, attempted to name an entire fleet simultaneously using an algorithmic approach, only to find that the ships performed worse than their unnamed counterparts. The name must have meaning, Maya explained to a gathering of alien captains. It's not just a label. It's a promise, a destiny, a story waiting to be told. Each ship needs time to grow into its name, and each crew needs time to understand what that name truly means. Dr. Zextel's research began to show interesting patterns. Species that approached naming as a genuine cultural adaptation rather than a mere technical upgrade saw the greatest benefits. The most successful named ships were those whose names resonated with both the vessel's purpose and the crew's cultural values. We're seeing the emergence of a new form of spacefaring culture, she reported to the Science Council. One that bridges the gap between technical efficiency and spiritual connection. Each species is finding its own way to interpret and implement the tradition, creating a rich tapestry of approaches to ship consciousness. The Meridians, in particular, discovered that their crystalline nature allowed them to form unique resonances with their named ships. The Luminaris began exhibiting properties that even humans hadn't achieved, its crystalline components synchronizing with its crew in ways that defied conventional physics. Perhaps, Maya suggested during a conversation with Zarix, this is what the naming tradition was always meant to be, not just a human practice to be copied, but a seed that would grow differently in different soils, producing unique and beautiful variations across the galaxy. As more species began naming their ships, each in their own way, the very nature of space travel began to change. Ships were no longer seen as mere tools or vehicles, but as partners in the great adventure of space exploration. The galaxy was learning that there were many ways to name a ship, but all of them led to the same truth, that believing in something could sometimes make it real. A new understanding. 10 years after the Prometheus incident, the observation deck of the Galactic Central Station was packed with representatives from every spacefaring species. They had gathered to witness something unprecedented, the launching of the first truly collaborative interspecies vessel, one that would carry the hopes and dreams of a dozen different civilizations. Dr. Zextel, now the head of the Galactic Culture Integration Board, stood at the podium, her four eyes taking in the assembled crowd. Beside her stood Captain Maya Rodriguez, recently promoted to Admiral, and High Admiral Zarix of the Meridians, their crystalline form gleaming with ceremonial patterns. A decade ago, Zextel began, we thought we understood the relationship between ships and their crews. We believed in pure efficiency, in numbers and designations. Then humanity showed us that we had missed something fundamental about the nature of space travel itself. The massive viewport behind her revealed the ship in question, a vessel that combined technologies and design philosophies from multiple species. Its hull gleamed with meridian crystal matrices, its engines incorporated Vulcan quantum physics, and its biological systems drew from a dozen different worlds' expertise. Today, we name this ship, Zextel continued. But this naming is different from any that has come before. This name was chosen not by one species, but by all of us together. The assembled crowd fell silent as Admiral Rodriguez stepped forward. On behalf of all our peoples, I present the Galactic Science Vessel Harmony. She paused, allowing the translation systems to convey the name in every language represented. Like the musical concept that inspired her name, she represents different notes coming together to create something greater than their individual sounds. The harmony was more than just a technological marvel. She was a testament to how far the galaxy had come. Her crew quarters were designed to accommodate any known species. Her computer systems could interface with both biological and crystalline life forms. Even her environmental systems could shift between different atmospheric requirements in seconds. But more than that, she represented a new understanding of what ships could be. Each species had contributed not just technology, but their own interpretation of the naming tradition. The Meridians had installed crystal resonance chambers that helped the ship maintain harmony with her crew. The Vulcan had developed new algorithms that could adapt to the intuitive decision-making humans were known for. The Tellarites had added biological components that could actually grow and evolve with the ship's experiences. A harmony represents more than just cooperation. High Admiral Zarix's crystalline voice resonated through the chamber. She represents evolution. We have learned from humanity that ships can be more than tools, but we have also discovered that each species brings its own understanding of what that more can be. As if in response to its name being spoken, the harmony systems hummed to life. The crystal matrices in her hull began to glow with a soft light that seemed to pulse in rhythm with the assembled crowd's collective attention. The ship's quantum core, visible through specialized viewing ports, sparkled with possibilities. Dr. Zextel activated a holographic display showing data from the past decade. Our research has shown that named ships now consistently outperform their unnamed counterparts across all species. But more importantly, we've seen that each culture's unique approach to the naming tradition has led to innovations we never could have predicted. The display showed the Meridian ship Luminaris using crystalline resonance to navigate through quantum storms. It showed Vulcan vessels with names based on prime numbers, achieving impossible mathematical predictions. It showed Tellarite ships named after ancient healers developing new ways to repair themselves and their crews. But perhaps the most remarkable discovery, Zextel continued, has been how this tradition has helped us understand each other. Through sharing our different approaches to naming and bonding with our ships, we've learned more about each other's cultures than centuries of diplomatic relations could achieve. Admiral Rodriguez nodded. When humans first started naming their ships, it was about making them feel like home, about creating a connection between vessel and crew. We never imagined it would become a bridge between species. The Harmony's first captain, a young Meridian named Zixlera, who had served aboard the Prometheus during the quantum storm incident, stepped forward. Their crystalline form had been modified to interface directly with both the ship's systems and their human first officer. Every named ship tells a story, Zixlera said, their voice carrying the harmonic overtones of their species. The Harmony story is just beginning, but it's already unique. It's the first story we're all writing together. As the ceremony concluded and the Harmony prepared for her maiden voyage, Dr. Zextol made one final entry in her research logs. Perhaps this is what humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy has been. Not the tradition of naming ships itself, but showing us that there are as many ways to connect with the universe as there are species to explore it. In teaching us to name our ships, they taught us to see the soul in everything we create. The Harmony's engines ignited, and she moved gracefully away from the station, her crystalline hull catching the light of 1,000 stars. As she disappeared into the vast expanse of space, she carried with her not just a crew of different species, but a new understanding of what was possible when technology and spirit worked as one. In the end, humanity's simple tradition of naming ships had done more than improve space travel. It had helped an entire galaxy understand that the greatest journeys are the ones we undertake together, each in our own way, but all reaching for the same stars.